If one day Elon Musk woke up, grabbed his phone, and, as a nonsensical idea from a video, decided to donate $1 million to each resident of the United States. First, he grabs his phone, opens the bank app, notices the balance of $191 billion, and realizes that to donate $1 million to each person in the country would require $335 trillion. But that's a detail. Nothing that gathering the 2,700 billionaires from the Forbes list wouldn't make possible. In an unprecedented decision, the billionaires of the United States surprised the nation by announcing, at a completely unexpected moment, a radical wealth redistribution plan. According to this plan, all citizens of the United States will receive a significant sum of $1 million. This measure represents an extraordinarily aggressive approach to resource redistribution, far exceeding the welfare policies already in place. The implementation of this plan would involve the direct transfer of funds to the bank accounts of all eligible citizens. Additionally, to ensure that even those without bank accounts can receive their share, bearer checks would be sent to about 150 million people, ranging from minors to illegal immigrants and tourists present in the country, considered an integral part of the everyone group. It is important to note that the distributed amount would be exempt from federal and state income taxes, representing a significant exception in the tax obligations of the beneficiaries. However, it is important to note that it would still be subject to local and municipal taxes, which may vary depending on the specific jurisdiction. This measure would certainly have an unprecedented impact on the economy and society as a whole, sparking heated debates about its viability and long-term consequences. The challenge of financing a $1 million distribution program for each citizen of the United States proves to be monumental when we analyze the figures and economic implications. Considering the legal population of approximately 320 million, adding an estimated illegal population of 11 million and a tourist population of 1 to 3 million, the total number of eligible individuals could reach about 335 million. Multiplying this number by the amount of $1 million, we obtain a staggering figure of $335 trillion. Obviously, billionaires do not have all that value in their bank balances. So to raise such a colossal amount, the US government would have to resort to extraordinary measures. For example, it would be necessary to issue about 5,000 times more bonds than usual in a short period of time to sell them in the market. However, such action would drastically overload global demand for US debt, quickly surpassing limits. At this point, the Federal Reserve would be forced to expand its balance sheet, effectively printing money to acquire the remaining bonds. However, this massive increase in the money supply would have direct consequences on the economy. Global knowledge of the distribution plan could lead to a sudden increase in market interest rates in the United States. Additionally, the prospect of such an immense influx of liquidity could trigger concerns about inflation and currency devaluation. Additionally, a drastic consequence would be the devaluation of US public debt, since the sudden mass issuance of bonds could be interpreted as a sign of the country's financial insolvency. The result would be a situation of technical default, where investors lose confidence in the government's ability to honor its financial obligations. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel for more. With the announcement of such a radical wealth distribution plan, the stock market would enter a state of unprecedented turbulence. Investors and analysts would be inundated with a wave of uncertainty and speculation as they try to assess the impact of this massive influx of money on the economy and businesses. One of the first visible effects would be a frantic search for companies that still hold value amidst the chaos. Investors would reassess their portfolios, seeking to identify those companies with solid fundamentals and the ability to adapt to a drastically altered economic environment. The stocks of these companies could experience extreme volatility, with sudden fluctuations reflecting constantly changing perceptions of their long-term potential. At the same time, specific sectors of the market would be directly impacted in distinct ways. Banks and commodity companies would emerge as potential beneficiaries of this scenario as investors seek assets considered safer amidst impending hyperinflation. Banks, for example, could experience significant increases in their valuations, driven by the perception that they possess tangible assets and a privileged position to adapt to rapid economic changes. Similarly, commodity companies, such as those involved in the production of essential commodities, could see renewed demand for their products amidst concerns about inflation and the search for tangible assets. The announcement of such a radical wealth distribution plan would have immediate and profound repercussions throughout the economic system, triggering a series of chain reactions that would affect everything from major financial institutions to small local grocery stores. Initially, the impact would be felt in the corridors of large corporations and financial institutions, where news would spread rapidly, causing a wave of shock and uncertainty. As information disseminates, traders at all levels of the supply chain would be overwhelmed by the need to reassess their business strategies and adjust to new economic realities. In local grocery stores and small commercial establishments, owners and managers would face the immediate challenge of dealing with potentially frenzied demand for basic goods. Aware of the impact of the massive distribution of money on imminent hyperinflation, many merchants would choose to withhold their goods, fearing price escalations and uncontrolled consumer runs. This chain reaction could quickly turn into a supply crisis, with empty shelves and a widespread sense of panic among consumers. In response, many stores might choose to temporarily close their doors, seeking time to reassess their business strategies and deal with emerging economic pressures. Additionally, amid uncertainty and growing anxiety, certain sectors of the economy could experience an escalation in criminal activity. Gun stores, for example, could become targets for looting and break-ins, as desperate individuals seek means of protection in an increasingly chaotic environment. All of this happens even before the money reaches anyone's bank account in the US. Everyone hides to wait for their funds to arrive in their accounts while trying to figure out if this is a one-time event. As soon as the money starts to be deposited into people's accounts, a gigantic wealth redistribution unfolds, resulting in an even more pronounced economic disparity. The 95% of the population with a net worth of less than $1 million suddenly find themselves with a significant sum to spend. However, many of these individuals, not being financially savvy, tend to spend their earnings immediately. As these people begin to inject money massively into newly reopened stores and products for sale, they encounter an economy that quickly adjusts prices to reflect the influx of new capital. Those first to receive the money may benefit substantially, mainly due to poorly adjusted prices by merchants. However, for the 50% of the population who have few or no banking relationships, the situation is even more complicated. They face long lines at banks to access their funds, while watching prices of goods and services skyrocket, making their $1 million increasingly less significant. Hyperinflation sets in as a way to accommodate the sudden abundance of money and keep the economy moving. After a brief period of hyperinflation, prices are expected to stabilize. However, given the technical default of the US government, the approach to containing hyperinflation would be to halt money printing, leading to a shift in government services to a fee-based model whenever possible. In the following months, the 50% of the population with lower net worth discovers that, despite owning assets like new cars, their incomes have not increased proportionally. This leads them to sell their assets at a loss, while seeing their net worth decrease relatively. The need for additional loans also becomes problematic due to high interest rates, further increasing financial pressure on them. Meanwhile, the top 5% who are already millionaires observe a temporary decline in their relative net worth during the initial distribution of new money. However, they are soon flooded with a massive influx of capital stemming from high investment returns, rising asset and property prices, and the sudden elimination of debts due to the injection of $1 million. Furthermore, by giving everyone $1 million, the US has just handed the economy to the wealthiest 5 to 10% of the population. Apart from the initial euphoria experienced by some who have never had access to a substantial amount of money, the majority of the population finds themselves in an even more precarious situation than before. The poorest 50% face a distressing experience as they watch their money suddenly disappear due to changes in the financial system. Where they could once rely on housing, minimum wage, and social benefits, they now find themselves in a state of helplessness as the US government struggles to redefine the boundaries of Social Security. It may take years for the government to implement programs to help these individuals again, while many are left on the sidelines, living in dire conditions, contrasting with the ostentatious wealth of some multimillionaires. On the other hand, the middle class witnesses a simultaneous rise and fall in terms of income and population representativeness. The sudden wealth redistribution opens up new opportunities for some members of the middle class who manage to find ways to benefit from the new economic landscape. However, wealth inequality reaches even more worrying levels as the upper class expands to absorb parts of the middle class, rising to the top 20%, while the lower class also grows, encompassing the remaining 80%, who hold less than 20% of all available assets. This scenario outlines an increasingly pronounced economic polarization, with a financial elite consolidating its power and a large majority facing a situation of financial precariousness. If you like this video, please support the channel in the first pinned comment. And since it's not feasible to donate $1 million to everyone, why don't billionaires buy all the lottery tickets and make infinite money? That's what I talk about in this video on the screen. Until next time.